When you got to your first camp and you looked at all the rookies, did you know instantly, Steve, 2 or 3 of them were not going to make it and 2 or 3 of them were going to make it?
No, as a rookie, I did not know that. Now, as I became a veteran, I had the innate ability to look in the room and say, there's 12, 13 guys, in camp. I knew we were going to carry 6. If there was a special guy, most likely 5. We probably had to be, it wasn't a lot to choose from, so we would go with 4. I was able to look at it and go, he's going to make it. Obviously, I'm going to make it. He's going to make it. Nope. Doesn't have a chance. And he's 50-50. And the reason I was able to read that and be able to see that had to do with, and it kind of, it's harder to do it now for me being in the booth, because what I really love, in your show, you do a great job with your show. You're on the West Coast. And so I grew up in the West Coast, and I grew up in a place where you had to dissect, process, and the ability to evaluate an individual on that first encounter, that first impression. And I was able to harness that in pretty good. I feel like I'm a good people reader, but I become it really creates my narrative of what I believe of that individual as I'm around them more and more and more. So if I'm sitting in meeting rooms, and then I'm watching and observing a guy like I do at the airport now, pre-COVID, post-COVID, whatever, I sit there and people watch, and I see a guy in the locker room, and I see how he acts. I see how he walks in the morning. If I'm in my locker with my cup of coffee at 6:15, and this dude, he's supposed to be in a special team meeting at 7:30, and this dude strolls in at 7:20, 7:25, and he's scampering through, that tells me this isn't a profession for him. This isn't a career. So what he's doing with this, in our off time, when we're playing cards, playing dominoes, when we're on the buses, but then when I see him constantly tardy, constantly barely making a meeting because he doesn't have an alarm clock, because he uses his phone. Maybe he lives too far, maybe, whatever the case may be. For me, I go, this is your job, right? There's no other legal business that you can do and sleep well at night that you can make this type of money. And so when I see that, and I see a guy, and then I watch him make mistake over and over, this guy isn't gonna make it.
It's interesting. You're saying, Steve, that most of the guys that didn't make it in your career, it wasn't physical. It was like mental discipline, that stuff.
It was the discipline. It was I won't reveal a name, so I'll keep names out of it. I remember seeing a guy, he was like, man, I'm not giving an opportunity. I said, why? How do you feel like you're not giving an opportunity? He's like, well, I'm not giving an opportunity because, they'll give him a play. He get 5 plays. First play, he doesn't know where to line up. Second play, he actually knows how to line up, but he jumps off sides. Third play, he doesn't jump off sides. He knows where to line up. They throw him the ball, and he drops the ball. Right? And so that goes. And so he has 5 plays. He's made 1 decent play, and the rest of the 4, he's had either a MA, which is a mental error. He just didn't perform, or the corner jammed him up, or he just didn't get open, or he didn't get an opportunity. So, I know I'm not a mathematician, but if you get 5 opportunities and you only kind of make 1 play, you want more. Man, coaches get fired for that. You think that coach is going to go home to his wife and say, hey, babe, we got fired because Rick, who I love, is a great kid, but he just didn't do it. We played him, and I got fired because I stood on the table for him. And that's some of the stuff that happens. So I would talk to guys, and my philosophy when I played was I'm going to make a play a day, one play a day. And why that was successful is because when I would go back and watch film, that one play that I thought was fantastic, it actually was just okay. But then the play that I thought was okay, was just okay, was actually fantastic. So now I got 3 or 4 plays. But my goal was to make one play a day. So when they turn on the field every single blankety blank day, 8-9 always made a play. Now, yeah, I had some errors. I made some mistakes. I had some MEs. I dropped a pass or 2, or I did this. But they never said, they can never say, I never showed up.
It is interesting. Where do you think that comes from? Like you went to a junior college first, so you were overlooked, and then you went to Utah, so you were overlooked by that was the Mountain West at the time you played. So you got, I mean, shit, guys were overlooking you. Do you think that kind of, I mean, is that why you were so serious? Like you were tired of getting overlooked?
No, I was serious because I was raised at a serious time. Like that's just, now that I'm done and now, even me and you talk, bro, I've calmed down a lot. Like, I'm like, man, like my shirt right now says, I'll ride or die until about 9 or so. Right? Just because I'm actually a goofball, but I really don't give that off. I'm always serious. And my wife used to always tell me, she always say, baby, you can't fight every fight. Right. Yeah. And I'll be like, why not? Right. And so now I'm just kind of like, man, let it go, enjoy life. And, I didn't do that a lot. I was always serious, and I still kind of fight a little bit. It's like, man, just relax, don't, even preparing for this, the questions. And it was like, hey, do you like these questions? And there was one question I didn't want to do, but other than that, I was like, you know what? Who cares? Whatever. We'll figure it out. Like, don't worry about it, man.
Listen, when I think of you, I think you're a Hall of Famer. And what I think about you and appreciate is you're tough. And I made an argument for Edelman this week. And I said, listen, man, there's got to be more than one way to the Hall of Fame. I think of you similarly. You were better in big games. You were a physical presence. You would block. That's my argument for Edelman. Now Edelman's numbers are not yours. They're not great. But how do you look at Edelman as a guy that played in this league at a high level, was a Pro Bowler 5 times?
It's funny you say this because, when they ask me, or when guys like you ask me, I am caught in the middle, which is very rare for me. Usually I'm either over here or over there. I'm rarely in the middle. And I'm caught in the middle is because, one, I respect the heck out of Edelman. I love his game. I love what he does. He goes in there. He's a technician. He has benefited from where he played, but here's the problem. He wasn't given that position. He earned it by working his way through. He mastered his craft. He used to be a quarterback. Not everybody can go from quarterback to wide receiver. Not everybody can go from wide receiver to corner, right? Not everybody can play corner and be a successful wide receiver. So with all that, understanding his body of work, what I really like about Edelman, which a lot of times people don't want to really talk about, which is, we talk about some of these players in the league. We talk about what they did in the playoffs, but then they say, well, a guy didn't do that much in the regular season. And I agree. But then we talk about guys who have had a fantastic regular season, and unfortunately, not to their fault or their detriment, they never got an opportunity to play in the playoffs. But then what about the guys who have played in the playoffs?
And been great.
And didn't show up, right? And so when I look at Edelman, I just look at him from what I know and what I respect of wide receivers, and I respect them all. Now, I don't agree all of them are great. I don't believe all of them are Hall of Famers. I don't believe some of the whoever's are the top echelon that are on the laundry list of greats. I'm not going to say that this guy is better than that guy. But there are some guys where I'm like, okay, right? Because I am supposed to respect my elders and I shall respect my elders. But then I also look at Edelman and I go, I love his numbers and I love what he did when it counted the most. And when I say count the most, because I feel like there's some players right now, they were let me say it the way I want to say it. They was an I in the regular season, but they weren't legends in January and February. And that's where I believe that's where legends are born, in January, February. You know, we got some great announcers who are unbelievable broadcasters, played on big teams. But damn, if they would have been a broadcaster before they played quarterback, they might be doing something right now in January and February. Hence who I'm talking about. But I love him, and I think he's outstanding. But when you go back and look at his statistics, and I'm talking about this quarterback who I respect and I love what his body has worked prior to when he was playing football, now as a broadcaster. When you go back and look at his statistical numbers and his DNA of who he was in January, he wasn't great in January.
Right.
And so if you're not great in January, then guess what? I mean, you might as well just continue to keep playing in the co-ed leagues because I really think what you do in the regular season just builds you up to when you hit the playoffs, and you're in a groove. And Edelman was always that guy you can count on, right? And so when I look at Edelman and I see what he's done in the playoffs, he'll make a play or two in the regular season, but he's accountable and he's reliable in the playoffs, and that's what matters.
Go back to guys that you respected that maybe didn't get Pro Bowl love and they're not going to be you. Were there some badasses you played against that didn't get the love that jam you up, that were tough?
So here's the thing that sometimes people don't like this response, and it never really gets a lot of, man, there were so many corners that gave me fits. And it was not because they were physical or they were this or they were that. It was the guys who understood their scheme. And when guys understood their scheme, like a guy like Ty Law. I played Ty Law one time when he was with the Jets. And I had a play where I motioned inside and motioned back outside. And that was to establish what it was. But it was also I was supposed to block him, and we were running a toss. Ty knew that, and he undercut me and shot the gap and broke up the run. And I got Dan, and I remember Dan Henning dog cussed me on the sideline, called up, and they answered the phone. You know when Shannon Sharp, always Shannon Sharp say, "Hey, the president's calling." They told him stick a fork in them. They done. Remember that film? You remember seeing that?
Yeah.
That was Dan Henning calling me, and it was never on camera. Blankety blank. What did you blank and do all this stuff, right? And I'm using that as an example of, I remember I was playing New England Patriots the first time I think they went on to win a Super Bowl, and Otis Smith is playing corner, and we run sprint right option, and Otis knew it, and Chris Winkie throws it on the sprint right. I'm in a slot, and I go that way, and Chris Winkie throws it. Otis hit me. By the time Otis hit me, man, the ball was up in the air before he even touched my hands, right? That's a guy who he understood the scheme, but he also understood the play. And so the reason I'm laying that out is, as I got older and I even look back now, the guys that got me, I always first I looked at what was the coordinator like, and then the player.
Yeah.
I remember I was in a slot one time, and Carter, the corner that played in Kansas City, had
Dale Carter. Dale Carter.
Yes, Dale Carter. Man, Dale Carter jammed me one time, and I was like in my second year with at starting wide receiver, and I was in the slot. Dale was in the slot. Man, Dale jammed me so hard. He jammed me so hard and threw me down to the ground. When I got up, my face mask was like this, right? just things like that where Dale knew the coverage, he knew the route patterns, and so he knew getting speed to eliminate speed, get up on him. And Dale was 6'2", physical. Man, and just those little things really said something to me. And so when you ask me that question, the answer is not which corner, is the scheme. Who was the coordinator? And then I can tell you the corner. Because the corner can play well in one scheme, go to another one, and look like a bum. Right? Like a great example of a guy, and I always remember Jason David. Remember Jason David had 2 first names. He played well in Indy, won a Super Bowl. Man, Indy plays him when he goes to New Orleans, get that big contract. And remember that first game, they ran a train on him. Let's just call it what it is. Marvin and Reggie were taking turns running routes. And he gave up so many yards that year, right? But a scheme. Who was the coordinator? Jim Haslett. And Jim Haslett was always relying on, let me get a good corner and let me blitz you. Mike McKenzie, Al Harris, Ray Buchanan, Ashley Ambrose, right? Eric Davis with Detroit and with San Francisco, like so many different guys. Jimmy Hitchcock when he was with the Minnesota Vikings, right? Antoine Winfield as well, what he was able to do. So it was a lot of different corners. Brian Kelly from USC with Tampa Bay, and then Brian would get in your face, and then Rondé would lull you to sleep playing that zone. So it all varied, man. And that's the thing that's the unsexy answer, but that's the football and the analyst in me where I'm just not going to tell you why this guy is good. I believe he's good, but he also understands defense. And the defense coordinator understands him. Like Leslie Frazier, man, I played against Leslie so many times. I got to Baltimore. He was a DB coach. Man, I picked Leslie's brain all the time on what he was saying. If I heard, hey, don't bite on the first move. So what I would do, I would give the corner, I would give a corner 2 moves and then get him on the third because they were said, don't bite on the first move. Well, if I give you the first move, you don't bite on it. Well, I give you the first move, I know you're not going to bite on it. Then I give you the second move. So I give you the inside route, and I know you're not going to bite on it, but I'm doing that to straighten you up, to even you, give you the outside move. You're going to bite on it. Then I go back inside. I would always learn their rules, and then I would be a rule breaker. So I learned their rules, use their rules against them to get open, and understanding what coordinator it was to know how to do that, because even the player would not go against the scheme.
Right. So, I mean, I'm sure you watched Carolina last year. Can they be viable? Can Darnold fit quickly? Is it a system you can learn quickly with Matt Rule and Brady?
Well, what I love why I think it's a good fit is because, let's be honest, people are like, man, I don't see it. I don't understand why you bring in Sam Darnold. That's stupid. The problem is it fair to evaluate a quarterback that's on a team who is trying to get themselves together? The young man has been under duress from day one. It's not fair to him, right? Quarterbacks are one of these things. Quarterbacks, when winning, quarterbacks get all the glory, and when losing, to a certain extent, sometimes they want to place blame. But my blame is not the players. It's look how good Robbie Anderson has looked here in Carolina versus what he looked like with the Jets. I want to see what Sam Darnold can do when he has time and not under duress. We have never seen a quarterback perform well under pressure, under duress. Probably one of the best young talents we got out here. And we just saw him play in the Super Bowl where he did not accumulate 497 yards. That's how many yards he ran around for his life in the Super Bowl.
Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes in losing. So he did not accumulate 497 yards rushing. No, that's how many yards he ran around for his life, right? And that says something. So if Patrick Mahomes is not effective under duress, why in the Sam Darnold is he going to be effective under duress? How you going to say go 5-step drop and 3 steps into your 5-step drop? You're getting suplexed, and this is not WWE SmackDown.
Right. No, I mean, literally Mahomes didn't score a touchdown. He got hurried 35 times, and the greatest quarterback talent in the last 10 years literally could not move the ball. By the way, Aaron Rodgers, previous year, twice against the Niners, could not move the ball. And that's with great players around him. Like Darnold was literally running for his life for 3 years.
And he didn't have great players around him. So it's unfair. Now, all you can do is evaluate what you saw of him at USC. And at USC, he was very good. He was fantastic. And so when I go back and look at that, I liked him at USC. I thought he was pretty good at USC. So good that the Jets thought he was pretty good too. Now, the Jets didn't do anything to improve the Jets overall. They didn't. Yeah. I mean, they got rid of players. They brought in some players, but you can't bring in – the Jets are the house. Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold. But you can't have a house and have the plumber work on the carpet and the plumber do the cabinets and have the cabinet guy do the roof. It just doesn't work. You have to allow everybody to do their job. And they had some guys who just were not effective and were out of place. They were good for maybe a third position, but they weren't there to, hey, when we're on third down, we need a go-to play. Let's give it to this guy. They didn't have those guys.
Right. Another Carolina question. Who gets the blame? Cam never had back-to-back winning seasons, but he had good. They usually had pretty good defenses. Ron Rivera's a pretty good head coach. In the end, you look at Cam and Carolina. What went wrong?
Honestly, that's a hard answer. And the reason why it's a hard answer is kind of like where sometimes it's hard to answer why a team isn't or isn't where they should be when I'm an analyst, especially in COVID, not allowed to get into training camps and OTAs and talk to the general managers and coaches and, kind of get the ins and out of how things are going, right? And the reason I'm saying all this is when I was let go in Carolina, I was in my 13th year. When Cam was drafted, I had just turned, I think, 30-something. So the Cam, and people always, they always thought I was evading it. But here's the thing. The Cam Newton that I see today, he wasn't a father when we played. He wasn't a league MVP. There were things in his life that changed. And so I can't sit here and say, man, I know Cam when I don't. And to be honest, in a month, I'll be 42. Cam doesn't know soon to be 42 Steve Smith. You know why? Because I barely know 42-year-old Steve Smith. So now you have time of not interacting, not playing, not being around each other. I can see a guy. There's some things I know about Cam that I know, like our birthdays are, his birthday's May 11th, my birthday's May 12th. But when I'm not around a guy for 8 hours, for 6.5, 8 months out of the year, it's really hard to say, man, I sure know that guy. And it's not fair for me to say that. And I don't think it's appropriate for me to say this is why, because the last 3 years when I was in Baltimore and then after I retired, I wasn't around anyone. I just can't anyone for 3 plus, retired. for what? That's seven years. I haven't been in that locker room on a consistent basis for 8 hours out of 6 months for 7 years. It is no way that I can sit here and say that I know why it went wrong with Cam Newton. Then when you get a new head coach, you also get a new general manager, a new owner, like a lot of moving parts, new president, all that stuff. And for me to say this is what I know and why it went wrong, I just don't do it like some of these other guys do it on TV where they'll say, this is why. Because honestly, I don't know. And I also don't want, when I see Cam and he sees me, there's never any bad blood. There's never is like, man, why'd you say this about me? I never speak about guys I don't know about. And even when I do know some things, I keep my mouth closed because I know how hard it is to be in that locker room. Now, I've said some things about players or organizations that to some degree, that's how I felt, and I was young and doing it, but I try to be very careful. So when I see them out, there is no problems. There are no issues. They respect me. I respect them. And when I'm at a function, they're at a function that I don't have to explain anything to anybody, and I don't have a guy walking up to me telling me, hey, I need to talk to you. Because honestly, if I get a guy come up to me and say, hey, man, I need to talk to you, or come at me, yelling, fussing, and cussing because he sees me and I said something, man, that old guy, I want to keep that guy down and quiet and really reserved because I'm be honest, I'm not going to sit there and let you loud talk me in public because you don't like something I said and then dog cuss me. I also don't want to lose my job or go to jail for whooping somebody's ass because they don't like what I said, right? Because and that's the truth. So I have to be careful. Like I don't want to be with my wife at an event and some guy say something. I'm dressed up nice, and I'm wooing my wife over, and this dude comes over here and now I got to show my ass, and then now my wife's mad and saying you're not using self-control, but then he's showing me up in front of my family, in front of my wife. Now I got to whoop his ass, and then I lose my job, and then he's gonna sue because I whooped his ass out in public. Now I gotta, and then Steve's always doing this, so it just goes down a rabbit hole, man, that I don't have time to be worrying about these young boys mad because I'm trying to do my job because they think that I don't watch film. I watch a lot of film, and I try to conduct myself in a way that they respect my opinion, I respect them, and also we can conduct ourselves like men and not come across like I have previously on television, to where they can say, look at him, he's ignorant, he doesn't know how to act.
Since 2010, I think it is 11 years, there has been like 130 quarterbacks drafted. 11 have hit. 11 are Mahomes, Josh Allen. You know who they are. When you watch film on all these young quarterbacks, are we all just guessing, or are there one or two you do look at, Steve, and go, that's just going to work?
To some degree, you are guessing, because here's the problem. Let me show you this is my book of information right here.
Yeah.
Okay? This is my mock draft that I've done so far. Okay. Yeah. I got paperwork after paperwork sitting here of all this stuff. Let me get this one too, so you can see.
All right. I want to see it.
My
holy moly.
Right. And here's all that paperwork says. You know what that paper, none on that paperwork, even on my, on this one. So, right. So I have the name, college, year, age, position, honors, 20-yard shuttle, hands, bench, 40, 10, vertical jump, bent, broad jump, stats, injuries, views, strengths, weaknesses, summary, final grade. You know what's missing on that paper? Because they don't have a machine or a stat to do it? Heart. You can't measure a young man's heart by what he does in a vertical. You can't measure a man how he deals with adversity, right? And here's a great example. And people killed me about Josh Rosen. You remember my little tangent on Josh Rosen? You know what I feel like I'm a Catholic priest right now? Because there's a lot of people ain't saying nothing. Where is Josh Rosen right now? What roster is he on? He's the fourth receiver with guess what number pick? Number 3 pick, the San Francisco 49ers. You think Josh Rosen is going to be staying with the 49ers? He was so classy and he went down to Miami and then they got Tua. Well, before Tua, they gave him a job and he got out there for a quarter and he did exactly what he did in Arizona. You know, people got on me about that. And they say, oh, Steve's is this and Steve's a hater. He's the uncle that, man, I just saw that this was a young kid. Here's what I'll say, you can't, that paperwork doesn't have heart. And this is the era I'm from. When they drafted Kyler Murray, instead of Josh Rosen unfollowing Kyler Murray, unfollowing the Arizona Cardinals, I would have loved a tweet that says, hey, Kyler, see you in the morning. He should have been early up at Arizona to establish, I may lose my job, but I'm not going to lose it without a fight. Because this is the same kid when they drafted him. What did he say? You made 9 mistakes prior to me. If that ain't putting your stuff on the desk, I don't know what is. And then all of a sudden, a little bit of adversity come, and I get to see that your Kool-Aid valve came loose on your heart. This is a career. They have a draft every year. For my 16 years, they had a draft. It was the same time every year. And when a team drafts someone, they are saying, maybe not to me, but somebody on the squad, hey, we drafted this left tackle. They're either going to cut you or they're going to say this left tackle is either going to take your job or we're going to give you this left tackle, this rookie, your job. And you can either let them or you can go down swinging. And most of these young boys, emphasis on boys, go out, they don't go out swinging. They go out tweeting and Instagramming and IG and live, and they upset. That's why it's hard to judge, because here's the thing. Every single one of these players, they have a history. And some of them have not handled adversity well, and some of them have. Some of them were born in adversity. So adversity, right. For them, adversity is what they love. Like for me, a long time, and I had so much anxiety before the game and during the game. But the one area where it was calm, where I loved, it was like listening to what I listen to now is Miles Davis. It was like jazz. 2-minute drill. 2-minute drill is where I thrived. Because while everybody was chaos, it was just like back home in LA, in the inner city. The chaos, man, that's where I thrived because it was normal for me. And so in that 2-minute drill, when everybody's ripping and running, they giving hand signals, all that stuff, man, give me my hand signal, let me look at the defense, let me go to work. And that's the thing that some of these young men, man, look, hey, they're getting recruited as being the best player in the world, ranking out of high school, then in college, and then they get to walk the red carpet next in a couple of weeks. And then what happens? Some little adversity come in. What is the first thing they do? I'm gonna unfollow you on Twitter. That's how they do it. That's what we report now. Have we not reported when a guy is possibly not going to be with that team? The first report that we think something's up is what? They unfollow the team on social media. Don't we report that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying. I'm just telling you why. No matter all this information I have, it doesn't matter. If one of his chambers of his heart is hooked up and there's Kool-Aid running in it, it's going to come loose at some point, and teams going to have to cut ties with him.
Yeah. Well, to your point, a lot of guys don't face adversity. You've actually been really honest about shit. When you played, you said you struggled sometimes with depression.
Yeah,
Most
yeah.
guys don't want to. Most guys don't want to talk about that. You would think you're great, good-looking guy, smart,
Appreciate that,
successful.
man. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Look at that. So now that you're working out and looking a little fitter, you can tell the handsomeness of me.
But it's interesting because I wouldn't think. I mean, you were always a guy that was just resilient, tough, making catches, Pro Bowls. Was there a moment for you, an epiphany, when you're like, I need to see a therapist? There's something I can't get my arms around by myself.
Well, what happened was back in 2003, I had already had a sports psychologist, a guy who was working with golf players. And so I already had a sports psychologist that I was working with. So visualization was always there. Daily goals, monthly goals, short term, long term, had all that stuff already mapped out, and went through that. Had a whole routine. Looking at my film as data with no emotions. Right, I had all that stuff, and it was built in me. But I struggled because I was so geared towards data, P&L, profit or loss. Was I creating enough passive income for my family by playing? So when I'm done playing, I can sit back and enjoy life, right? So my mind was always going. I was either always on or always off, right? And so, and just having that pressure, right? And so for me, what happened is I didn't know and didn't realize the pressure I was putting on myself. It was causing me to not really enjoy the journey because of the way I was raised and what I went through and what I experienced, right? And it's something I just connected the dots with is by the age of 18, I felt pretty insignificant. It was in me, I felt already insignificant. So for me, playing ball was me playing ball. I always wanted to play ball. But outside of playing ball, I was always trying to figure things out. Things didn't always equal up or make sense. So I struggled with that. And then you add not addressing it. You playing ball, keep suppressing it, and I just struggled with it. And so when I started doing counseling, just not for when I stopped doing counseling on the sports, and I just started doing counseling on figuring things out, I started going backwards, and I was going, oh, because I was always uptight, right? And I remember when I tore my Achilles in Baltimore, and I'm on, the medication from the surgery. And man, I remember, and I was like, and I woke up like in the middle of the night, and I remember saying, man, if I would have just caught these passes. And when you have after surgery, you're always kind of that medicine does some stuff to you.
Right.
And I remember I was able to recite when I woke up in the middle of the night, I was able to recite every ball that I dropped. And if I didn't drop that ball, I wouldn't be playing right now. I would not be playing right now. That means I would not have torn my Achilles because I would have had those 1,000 receptions.
So you were just eating yourself up.
In the hospital room. And if I would have got those 1,000 receptions, I would have quit playing last year, the year before. And so then I wouldn't, you see what I'm saying? And so I just went down a rabbit hole. And the medication I was on, it had me just like, I was like, I mean, if this is the memories, and I was just like, I was in it. I mean, way out. I got a dog, but you ever seen a dog digging in the dirt? That's where I was. I was digging through the dirt and the mess, and I was getting filthy inside my head, inside my heart of where I was. And I was just like, man, this ain't good. And so that's why when I stepped away really my 16th year. I was like, man, I didn't want to go play for another team. I didn't want to keep, being away. this year I'm in Baltimore for 3 years, and I go play 2 years somewhere else and play maybe another year. And it's like, man, decide what you're gonna do. And so that's one of the reasons why, and that's what I was able to figure out. And so it was like, you know, did I want to play? Yeah, but wanting to play and understanding I needed to stop playing, that was more important.
Yeah. Do you miss it?
Miss what?
Just do you miss the camaraderie, the dudes?
Not really. Because here's the thing. I made myself unapproachable to where I had this guard up where I didn't want friends because I was here to do one thing is play ball. I wasn't here to be your friend because when I turned it on the light switch and I play ball and go against defenders, I don't give a fuck about your family. I don't care how your wife and kids are doing. I'm here to kick your ass. Bottom line.
Yeah.
And so having that, and then when I got to Baltimore, I realized, man, just slow down a little bit. And so that's where it wasn't Baltimore was such a significantly better place. I was in a better mind frame. Justin Forsett, great guy. Anthony Levine, great guy. Thomas Davis, great guy. Mike Tolbert, great guy. I mean, so many great, fantastic players that I played with. But I didn't appreciate or make them feel appreciated because I was just so focused on kicking ass and taking names that I was tough to be around. But I was okay being alone because alone fed into the anger of playing ball the way I played.
Yeah. You're a pretty adventurous traveler. I ran into you at a restaurant in LA and you just got back from South Korea, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So you said you go on big trips. You like to go on big trips. Give me a country that's underrated and one that's overrated.
Underrated, Costa Rica. There's 2 areas you can fly into. Liberia, which is a Papagayo. That's that area where the Ritz-Carlton and you can play golf there. That's fun. But then there's Jaco Beach that you fly into San Jose. Now, that's like 2.5-hour drive from the airport. That place was fun. We loved that. That was like a safer version, cleaner version of Mexico. So love both of those. My family tell you right now, I love Costa Rica. We've been there twice, and every time we talk about trips, I throw in Costa Rica every time. Like every time.
Now Brady loves that. Tommy loves Costa Rica. He got a big old place down there.
Yeah, so I love Costa Rica.
Now, where did you go and you thought when you came home that wasn't as good as the brochure? Nigeria.
No, Nigeria was okay. Lagos. No, Lagos, Nigeria. Togo Lomé. Togo Lomé was interesting.
Now, where is Togo Lomé?
So Togo Lomé is a French colony. You have to fly into when you fly into there. You generally lay over in Paris, and then Ghana is in the middle. My best friend is from Ghana, and then from there we flew from Ghana, then lay over to Nigeria, which is an English colony. So they don't do French and English don't fly together. You gotta have a layover. So Paris was good. For me, honestly, Paris is a dirtier version of New York. And now what I love about Paris is in London is the coffee, right? But man, I hate the fact in Paris, like you'll be in a restaurant or outside, and man, people are smoking cigarettes like they chewing gum. So I really didn't like Paris.
Have you ever been to Singapore?
No, I have not been to Singapore. I've been to Beijing, though.
What's that like?
I like Beijing. Shanghai is very old-fashioned, right? Shanghai is very old-fashioned. Like Shanghai is like old-fashioned where It's not as modern as Beijing. It's not as modern as Tokyo. So Tokyo, man, Tokyo, you eat it off the floor, man. That place is clean. They got people just picking up trash. No, there's no trash cans around. So they're constantly picking up trash. So it's nice. I love Tokyo. Um, I mean, it's been some places that see when I say travel, I don't say the traveling and bragging. I say the traveling in exploring the world and seeing how vast and how beautiful the world is, and really how small the United States is. Our economic presence is remarkable, but there's so many other places around there. For Easter, my oldest boy, he wanted me to help him out and go to Miami one year for spring break. I said no. So I said we can do a trip together, or you can stay your ass at home. So we did a trip, and we did um, Auschwitz in Poland. So we did that, and then we did Iceland. And but Auschwitz was really good because we did the concentration camp on Easter, and it really put in perspective um, just what those people went through. I would love to go to I think it's Denmark, or where the Anne Frank Museum is. That's one of the places where I want to go, and because I love history. I love to learn about history, good, bad, or indifferent. I don't care. I want to learn about the history. I don't want to believe what someone posts, or what some guy who died 90 years ago wrote about his personal opinion. I want to see it. I want to hear what the locals say. I want to hear really what people have experienced in that area, because I think everything was going on with social injustice, whatever, everything's going on in the community. When you don't live in that community, if you never experienced it, it's hard to get a sense of what's true and what's not, what's fabricated, what's blown out of proportion, and what is under that's understated, right? And so that's why I love traveling, just to see. I want to see the world. I want to not see the world in a bragging way, but see the world as like, wow. Um, and then there's still some places that I want to go. Obviously to see Anne Frank. My wife wants to go to Iceland. We want to go. She wants to go in the summer because it's just so green. Did the Northern Lights. I've been to Africa, Australia, Asia. Um, just Israel. We've been to Israel. Actually, before COVID hit, we was actually going on a 14-day biblical tour in Israel. That had been my wife's third time. That would have been my second time. We were going as a family.
Wow.
So I love seeing the world. I love London, Barcelona. We've been to Lucca, Pisa, Barcelona, Italy, Florence. Florence is a great place, man. I used to have a hookup. A guy, they used to send us when me and my wife were into wine, not into it very much. I rarely drink. We used to have a guy. He used to send us every quarter a crate of Italian wine from France. It used to be like $250, and it was so worth it. Oh, it was excellent.
Boy, you've really traveled.
Yeah.
Now, when you were a kid, did you guys have the money to travel?
And when I was a kid, and that's one of the reasons why I travel. When I was a kid, what we went to is we went on a Greyhound bus to Vegas, and I stayed at the old Fremont Hotel in old Las Vegas. Yeah, talking about bring a pistol now, right? But I remember someone said one time, growing up in California, and there's a lot of Latino population, and someone said this, and I remember it, and it kind of played into the narrative of why I learned to travel. Someone said, when you're in our country, you need to speak our language. And just didn't ring. And I was like, okay, I'm a kid, whatever, individual, man. And so when I went to Lagos and Togo Lomé, I had an opportunity to do a layover in Paris, and I ended up staying with a buddy. So me and him stayed because I was like, man, I don't know when I'm gonna go to Paris again, right? That was the first time I had to get a passport, the whole nine. And when I was there, I found myself, and I said this to myself, and I said, damn, does anybody speak English? And it rang, that individual said, back when I was back home, when I was a young kid, when you in our country, you speak our language. And that's when I recognized how small America is, how insignificant we are truly, but how we have made ourselves feel this big. And so I was like, you know what? I'm never, ever going somewhere expecting them to speak my language in their country. And so I wanted to see what it's like and what it is. And so been to Peru, just all these places. I've been a lot of places, but the difference is I've experienced this at 28, 30, 40 years old. My kids have experienced this 12, 13, 3, 6, 23, that they're getting educated and having a well-versed palette of what the world looks like, not what the world looks like through whatever television or Netflix or social media is feeding them. They get to see it with their own 8K, 4K, whatever eyes that they have, and they get to really develop their own opinion about who they are and what they see, and not some opinion about someone else. It may be a false narrative or may be their own perspective of what they have interacted and went through.
Good stuff, Steve Smith. You gave us like 50 minutes there. That was a lot of time to talk, buddy. I appreciate that.
No problem, man.
So where are you going to go? By the way, so this will air Friday morning. Thursday night, you got a big date with your wife tonight? What do you got?
Well, today we usually do it on Tuesday. She really wasn't up for it. We usually do Taco Tuesdays. And then after we do that, since it's later, we're probably going to take the dog on a walk. And since we're taking the dog on a walk, I usually psychologically, I let the dog poop in the front in the pine needles, because that makes me clean it up, because no homeowner wants people coming over their house. Their front yard is full of dog shit.
Right.
So it makes me pick it up. So about once, it's about this time, it's either between Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, I literally go out there and I got the doggy bags and I pick up dog shit. And
that's keeping it real.
I mean, that's what I do. Because if you were to come over my house and you'd be like, and you just waiting for us to open the door and you look to the right and you'd be like, bro, he got like 4 or 5 dog shit. I can't imagine what the house looks like inside. Right? That's what I think. If he's not picking it up outside, God knows what is hidden inside.
That's what my buddy who owns a restaurant says. He said, make your bathrooms clean. Because if people use your restaurant bathrooms and it's dirty, they think, what's the kitchen look like?
Thank you. So that's why.
Good seeing you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.